The Battle of Hoth, also known as the Defense of Echo Base, was a major battle fought in 3 ABY and was widely considered a major victory for the Galactic Empire and the single worst battlefield defeat suffered by the Rebel Alliance during the Galactic Civil War. The Battle of Hoth represented a major setback for the rebellion and marked a turning point in the war and forced the rebels to scatter and significantly hindered their operations. In the canon book Star Wars Battles That Changed the Galaxy, the Battle of Hoth is shown in detail, as well as how the Empire missed an opportunity to defeat the Rebel Alliance once and for all. Let's get right into it. The Battle of Hoth was the Alliance's worst defeat during the Galactic Civil War, a rout that badly strained already stretched Rebel resources. But while holonet propagandists trumpeted Hoth as an Imperial victory, it was actually a failure, and a major one at that. A combination of tactical errors and misplaced priorities, along with the Rebels' discipline and fortitude in battle, allowed the escape of key Rebel leaders, along with personnel and equipment. The Empire seized the chance to strike back at the Alliance, but missed landing a death blow. The planet Hoth, which was first surveyed by a Gregorian Rebel scout, offered the Alliance a number of advantages. The icy world was very close to the Corellian trade spine, but on a lesser hyperlane, plagued by navigational anomalies, making Hoth rarely ever visited. An extensive asteroid field and regular asteroid impacts on Hoth created thermal signatures that would hide signs of habitation. If such signs were detected, observers would conclude that another band of smugglers was trying to use Hoth as a bolt hole. Such efforts inevitably came to nothing, given Hoth's punishing climate and savage storm seasons. But the Rebel Alliance had the resources to succeed where smuggling rings had failed. Rebel engineers spent 2 years expanding ice caverns into a formidable base built around a giant ion cannon powered by a reactor stolen from a battle cruiser which was buried a kilometer below the surface ice. General Riken ensured Echo Base, named for its cavern's eerie acoustics, would be a fortress, with heavy blast doors protecting its north and south entrances, along with rings of trenches for infantry and anti-vehicle and anti-personnel emplacements built into the mountainside and set on the surrounding ice fields. Establishing Echo Base was an enormous undertaking intended to give the Alliance a principal base for the rest of the Galactic Civil War, but because of some truly bad luck, the Rebels called it home for only less than a month. The Imperial hunt for Echo Base intensified after the ambush of a Rebel convoy at Dara. While that clash didn't reveal the base's location, it dovetailed with chatter tracked by Imperial intelligence about increased Rebel operations in the area. Star Destroyers blanketed sector after sector with probe droids. One probe launched from the Stalker and descended upon Hoth and captured an image of Echo Base's main power generator before self-destructing. Admiral Ozzel, commander of the Star Destroyer Executor, dismissed the sighting as an uncharted settlement or smuggler's outpost, but Darth Vader himself overruled him and ordered a death squadron to Hoth. Standard Imperial tactics called for Ozzel to assemble a squadron on the edge of the Hoth system and approach it using its asteroid belt as cover. But Ozzel feared the Rebels would call in the Alliance fleet, catching his task force amid the chaos of the asteroids, so he opted for surprise, decanting from hyperspace close to the planet. The Rebels activated a planetary shield to protect their base, a potent defense the Empire did not know they had. Furious, Vader strangled Ozzel and promoted Captain Piet in his stead. With an orbital bombardment now impossible, General Veers moved immediately to execute a ground assault. He would land AATs beyond the shield's perimeter and march overland to the shield generator and destroy it. Meanwhile, Admiral Piet deployed his Star Destroyers as a blockade, ready to intercept fleeing Rebel ships. Fortunately for the Rebel Alliance, Riken had ordered evacuation preparations immediately after the encounter with the probe droid. The Rebels were still in Hoth, but all their critical equipment had already been loaded. 30 Rebel transports would have to run the Imperial blockade and escape to hyperspace, but Riken had planned for that. Echo Base would briefly lower the shield to fire a blast from its ion cannon at the Star Destroyers overhead. Meanwhile, snow speeders and ground forces would delay the Imperial ground assault as long as possible. The Rebels would suffer grievous losses, but if they kept their heads, total disaster could be averted. The Rebels' hastily upgraded and modified T-47 airspeeders were highly maneuverable, but still civilian craft. The snow speeders' laser cannons could only penetrate an AAT's weak neck, belly, or leg joints, which were difficult to target in battle. That forced Rogue Squadron to try a novel tactic they debated in their ready rooms. They would use harpoons and tow cables to entangle the walker's limbs. No one knew if that would actually work, and it required a perfect shot to fix the harpoon, followed by precise flying. Too wide and you would snap the cable, too narrow and you would clip the target. The result? Rogue 3's maneuver went down in Alliance lore, but Wedge Antilles routinely dismissed his own legend, reminding wide-eyed young pilots that it was the only time the tactic worked that day. General Veers worried that X-Wings would swarm his AATs before they could deploy from their dropships, so he used nimble Gazanti-class cruisers to deliver the walkers, escorted by TIE fighters. But it was quickly apparent that Hoth's frigid winds robbed the TIEs of their maneuverability, and Veers ordered them back into space. In response, the Rebel Alliance scrambled its airspeeders that had been modified to operate in the cold, which was a desperate effort that Rebel techs had only just completed. But these snowspeeders lacked the firepower of starfighters and were unable to penetrate the AAT's armor. In desperation, Luke Skywalker ordered Rogue Squadron to use harpoons and tow cables to entangle the walker's legs. Alliance pilots destroyed 3 AT-ATs and disabled a 4th, but the Imperial march proved unstoppable. Veers destroyed the power generator, bringing down Echo Base's shields and allowing Imperial troops led by Darth Vader to storm the base. By that point, however, nearly all the transports were away, and Vader's raid melted no high-value targets. Rather than try and track the fleeing Rebel transports, Vader ordered Death Squadron and its TIE fighters after the Millennium Falcon in hopes of capturing Luke Skywalker. The Rebels had suffered painful losses and struggled to regroup, but in one of the ironies of history, the Rebel leadership also began to wonder if the Alliance's best bet at victory was to mass their forces for a single strike at the heart of Imperial power. That critical strike would fall in a backwater system that would become famous across the galaxy, the Battle of Endor. Thank you all so much for watching. If you enjoyed the video and learned something new, please like and subscribe. And remember, the Force will be with you, always.